are back for another edition of ESPN FC Live. This time, as promised, after Arsenal versus Leeds. Alexis alongside Shaka Hislop. Shaka, what to say about this one? Arsenal absolutely dismantled Leeds, and it's not often that our predictions are this correct. But yesterday, speaking to Don Hutchison, I did say, look, Leeds are always Leeds. They can be frustrating. They'll look to disrupt Arsenal's rhythm. They'd love to make things physical, to leave something on the Gunners. But it was straight Arsenal, as straightforward as a win as Mikel Arteta would want.
Yeah, it certainly was. Maybe let me get to Leeds and just kind of get that out of the way because it's easiest. Probably the best and most positive thing I can say about them is their target is survival in the Premier League. And if Leeds are to survive in the Premier League, anything at the Emirates is, hoping to pick up something at the Emirates is not on that bingo card. So they kind of came here kind of expecting to lose, and they did. No real shame in that. Again, their season won't hinge on what happens at the Emirates, at the Etihad, at Anfield, etc., etc. So this is one that they could probably forget and are trying to forget as quickly as possible. From an Arsenal perspective, and again, to their credit, they made this look really easy. Albeit the first goal came from a set piece, but from there on in, at no point did they look at all worried. It was 0-0 when David Raya had to make another outstanding save from a lead set piece of their own. But outside of that, I really can't remember what David Raya looks like. And it was all Arsenal. It really was. And at no point in this game it looked like Leeds were ever going to lay a glove on them. And now, as a player, there was this. We had these cliches that we use, that regardless of who you were playing against, whether you were home or whether you were away, there would be 10 or 15 minutes where the opposition would have the better of you. Now, you might be the best team in the league playing against a team at bottom, but be prepared for 10 minutes that you are going to have to weather a little bit of a storm. That's part of the mentality, part of the discipline around playing the game at this level. But there was not a 10 or 15 minutes that Leeds had the better of Arsenal at any point in this game. And I think that just kind of spoke to the difference in the two, the difference between finishing second in the Premier League and finishing top in the Championship. That's how big the gap is.
Yeah, and then just looking at the win, I mean, there were so many positives for Arsenal. Of course, it was a goal fest. Timber put out brilliant performances, scoring as well as assisting. Saka as well got on the score sheet. They had a 15-year-old Max Darwin debuting as well in the league, making history there. A lot went Arsenal's way. However, in a little bit of a spot of bother, we did see Martin Odegaard come off earlier, and then similarly, Bukayo Saka. Now, these would be looking ahead, considering we're at the start of the season. These are two players Arsenal simply would not want to do without, especially considering they have Liverpool on their bingo card coming up next.
Yeah, and that's a huge blow, given that it's Liverpool coming up next. The Saka injury highlights why Arsenal spent the money that they did on Eberechi Eze. You saw what Saka's injury did to their title push last season in chasing down the very same Liverpool that they come up against next weekend. I thought any hopes of them pipping Liverpool were derailed by Bukayo Saka's injury. I felt that's why they needed another player of similar quality, of similar guile, and why they went out and got Eze. So now all of a sudden that signing of Eze, while he's sitting in the stands, looks all the more important, all the more timely. Maybe again with a week before the Liverpool game, we see how he fits in to Arteta's plans. But whichever way, however you slice this is a huge blow. I said before ball was kicked, I said if Arsenal were to win the title, they'd have to get a similar return from them defensively. Whether you're talking Gabriel or Saliba, both at both ends of the pitch in terms of scoring set pieces, and Timber was the defender on the score sheet today. But you've got to get a similar return from Arsenal defensively, from set pieces up at the other end. You've got to get 25 or 30 goals out of Gyökeres. I have questions about whether he can supply that. And Bukayo Saka has got to stay fit. Now, all of a sudden, It's still too early to say exactly when or how long Saka will be out for, but that is it's concerning, and that's putting it as nicely as I can from an Arsenal perspective.
Well, you did mention Gyökeres there, and that you did have some questions on whether he can supply that number of goals. He got 2 today, Shaka, albeit one was an injury time penalty. But what are those questions, or what did he bring to that attack today that either tickled your fancy or gave you those questions?
Well, while he is a big physical striker, I just wonder if he's mobile enough, if he's quick enough. Listen, the Premier League is not shy of big physical strikers. Look at Erling Haaland and certainly his first season return from Manchester City and how he has raised the bar of expectation for strikers in this league. But Haaland is quick. Haaland will run by you if you give him space. I'm not sure that Gyökeres has that change of pace. So he's pretty much relying on service into the box when he's already there. And I know it was a run into the channel and a run past 2 Leeds defenders that brought, well, his first goal. But again, I have questions about Leeds defensively. You don't see him doing that next week against a Konate and a Van Dijk. You don't see him doing that against better teams, better defenders in this league. And that for me is where the biggest question mark around Gyökeres comes. So while today it may seem a little futile in that criticism because the stats will show that got 90 minutes and scored 2 goals, I'm still not convinced that. And like I said, like my preseason prediction kind of demanded, he scored 30 goals for Arsenal this season.
All right. Well, Arsenal won the big game in terms of numbers and goals, but Spurs won the bigger game, I suppose, of the day. But in the end, North London will be a happy place tonight, Shaka, because for the moment, it's both Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur at the top of the Premier League table, at least until the rest of the games played this week. And that's it for us right now. But join us for another edition of ESPN FC Live.